The way we are planning to do it is to include the private sector in our conversations on AI governance for better governance outcome for development cooperation, and take them more seriously as an actor, because the way in which they shape their procurement decisions, investment decisions, actively have an impact on governance outcomes, and we need to involve them in these conversations, not just as a subject of regulation, but as active stakeholders in the decision-making processes.
So I think right now is really the time to start talking with AI companies. They're right now retooling their products. They're open to listening and getting feedback from, especially from democratic actors. So I think that's something in particular that we as a community should be doing over the next 12 months. And then also figuring out how to build accountability around institutions. Instead of kind of thinking about regulations, I think there's a way of thinking about how to create political costs for exploiting malicious AI, whether in elections or in other things. So I don't know how we make it as a community a little more unpopular to exploit AI for electoral advantage. And I think that there are a lot of different creative ways that we can think about it, both civil society, but also working with media and civic tech and political stakeholders.
Okay, what I take away from this very interesting panel today is that malicious AI swarms in electoral contexts are really hard to come by through preventive regulation, because there are strong political interests behind them and there are strong economic interests behind them that do not want them regulated. And so what I think is what we need is like an alliance between civil society and researchers that is strong enough to push back on the problem.
If I were to choose one thing, I would have independent cooperation organizations actually invest in independent monitoring observatories for the digital environment. And what this looks like is potentially a 12-month pilot over the course of 1 or 2 electoral cycles, where a consortium is gathered of different civil society organizations, academics, journalists, tech experts, technologists, even representatives from tech companies, to be able to look at the digital environment and the conditions under which elections are occurring. And what that looks like in practice is potentially having a monitoring hub that actually looks in real time as to what type of information people are consuming and digesting, and really leading to certain electoral preferences, and then having escalation mechanisms to be able to actually have paths to speak with different tech companies and different stakeholders about potential pathways out. And so that also implicates certain things like electoral transparency around political advertising, who is targeting whom and using what data. This is just one small idea to actually be able to have electoral observation actually evolve from what it is now. So from looking at the symptoms of a dysfunctional electoral information ecosystem to actually addressing the root causes in real time. And I think we need to be a lot more technically savvy on this, and starting by investing in these kinds of monitoring observatories is just the first step.
The most important thing is that we have access to platform data. We live in what we call the post-API age. The major platforms deny researchers access to their data on a large scale. But we need, first and foremost, this data in order to identify and understand malicious AI swarms before we can develop operational definitions and countermeasurements. A second thing is, you can't just distinguish a malicious bot from a human anymore. Large language models pass Turing tests and are simply indistinguishable. We need to understand the collective malicious behavior of such a swarm that would allow us to develop new detection mechanisms on a societal level.
What the news organization need to do within the next 6 months is to strengthen their fact checkers, their fact checkers team, and then to make sure that the fact checkers team also align with the social media platform moderation policy. Because most of the time, the fact checkers works being disseminated in some outlets, and then social media content or platform will still disseminate that content. So what's the point if the content already debunked or proof that this is disinformation or part of AI manipulation if the social media platform still have the content within their platform?